study concluded that there once existed a species of frog that lived many millions of years ago and was capable of eating small dinosaurs. This giant frog, known as Beelzebufo, or the devil frog, lived about 68 million years ago in Madagascar, equipped with powerful teeth and jaws. The frog was over 40 centimeters long and weighed 45 kilograms. Its first remains were discovered in 2008. But it wasn't until last week that it was demonstrated just how dangerous its bite could have been. Researchers studied the bites of current frog species and compared the bite force relative to body size across different species. This allowed them to estimate that the bite force of the devil frog was about 2,000 to 100 newtons, or roughly 220 kilograms of force comparable to that of tigers, which likely enabled this frog to consume small dinosaurs. The most fascinating part is that it was a frog. After 20 years of service, the Cassini spacecraft said goodbye and plunged forever into Saturn's atmosphere on September 15th. At 11:55 Coordinated Universal Time, the antennas of NASA's Deep Space Network stopped receiving a signal, much like a flat line on an electrocardiogram signifying the death of a human being. This indicated that Cassini's antenna had ceased pointing toward Earth due to the aerodynamic forces of Saturn's atmosphere. Seconds later, the spacecraft disintegrated as a bright fireball in the upper cloud layers of the ringed gas giant. Cassini entered Saturn's atmosphere at a speed of 113,000 kilometers per hour, with its thrusters at full power to keep its high-gain antenna transmitting scientific data for as long as possible. However, as the atmosphere thickened, the thrusters lost control, and the spacecraft could no longer maintain its orientation. Shortly thereafter, Cassini began to burn up, breaking apart in 30 seconds, and within a couple of minutes, any remaining material sank deeply into Saturn's atmosphere until it melted and dissolved completely. But Cassini died doing what it did best: science. In its final moments, its cameras were off after taking a few last images that it didn't have time to send. However, 8 of its 12 instruments collected highly valuable data from the atmosphere in those last moments, transmitting it back to Earth until its very last breath. Thus ended 20 years of incredible images and knowledge about this beautiful planet and its moons. For now, there are no missions to Saturn planned. We will miss you, Cassini. A group of scientists discovered which gene is responsible for controlling the color and patterns of butterfly wings. Until now, it was believed that the color of butterfly wings was the result of a complex combination of genes that together produced the final multicolored pattern. But last week, it was found that a single gene, called WNTA, nicknamed the paintbrush gene, is responsible for giving color to the wings of these insects. To make this discovery, researchers used the famous CRISPR gene editing method to deactivate this gene, and observed that doing so turned off the color of the wings, making them either darker or lighter, and lacking the vibrant colors typical of these beautiful animals. This study provides new insights into how genetics and evolution have shaped the biodiversity we see today. Understanding this gene helps solve a small piece of the gigantic puzzle of bioengineering. For the first time, light was successfully stored like sound waves in a computer chip. You are viewing a simplified animation of what was achieved. The center is the chip, and the yellow dots represent a pulse, a signal of light photons carrying information, while the blue dots represent a pulse necessary to transform the yellow signal into sound. When these two signals meet, they interact, producing an acoustic wave. This wave, which contains the information carried by the light pulse, is stored in the chip. Then, another pulse can access the chip, retrieve the acoustic information, and convert it back into light photons for transmission. This is a significant breakthrough that had previously been impossible. In terms of practical applications, this technology could theoretically enable the use of photons instead of electrons for data processing in a new generation of computers, making them more efficient and eliminating heat generation and energy absorption. However, as often happens in science, the most interesting applications will likely emerge over the coming years. It was discovered that Neanderthals followed a growth strategy very similar to ours. During their early years of life, the development of the large human brain requires a significant amount of energy, which is why during childhood, body growth slows down until the adolescent growth spurt, prioritizing the brain. This strategy was believed to be exclusive to our species, but it turns out that Neanderthals, who have been considered a separate species from ours for some years now, also shared this strategy. However, there is a difference. After analyzing the skeleton of a 7-year-old Neanderthal child who lived 50 years ago, it was found that the child's brain was still growing, even at almost 8 years old. This contrasts with our species, where the human brain reaches adult size by around 6 years old. The discovered difference is that the Neanderthal brain growth period was longer than ours, though how this affected their lives and intelligence is still a complex question that we don't fully understand. Last Friday, after approximately a year orbiting the Sun, the OSIRIS-REx spacecraft returned to Earth to use its gravity to gain the speed necessary to reach its destination. Just over a year ago, NASA launched the OSIRIS-REx mission from Cape Canaveral on a journey to a very peculiar asteroid called Bennu to collect samples from its surface and bring them back to Earth. However, this epic journey requires a little help to reach its target, as the spacecraft doesn't have enough fuel. So last week, it returned and used Earth's gravity for a gravity assist maneuver, in which the spacecraft literally stole some of Earth's orbital energy, causing our planet to orbit the Sun just a tiny bit more slowly to propel itself toward its destination. But as you might imagine, the exchange of energy was insignificant, with no noticeable effect on the planet, but it was very powerful for the spacecraft, which successfully gained the speed needed to reach its destination after passing just 17,000 kilometers above the Earth's surface. Safe travels. It was discovered that jellyfish of the genus Cassiopeia sleep something that wouldn't be newsworthy if it weren't for the fact that these animals don't have brains. This is the first example of sleep in brainless animals. Until now, we believed that the presence of a brain was a necessary condition for sleep. But in this study, Two behaviors were found that could indicate a sleep-like state as we understand it in jellyfish. On one hand, researchers observed that the rhythm of the animal's contractions, the movements they make to propel themselves, decreased significantly during nighttime hours. The other behavior was observed when they were deprived of sleep for a night. The next day, the jellyfish showed reduced activity and responsiveness to sensory stimuli. This study raises a lot of questions, as it appears that sleep has little to do with the brain, and it prompts many inquiries. Are there different types of sleep? What is sleep? And why do we dream? What is needed to dream? Thanks to images obtained by the Hubble Space Telescope, a unique and very strange object in the solar system was discovered. It's a binary asteroid that is a hybrid between asteroids and comets. Remember, the difference between asteroids and comets is that asteroids are rocky and metallic bodies, while comets are made of ice, mud, and dust, with tails of dust and gas, and have orbits with much more distant extremes than those of asteroids. The celestial object that made headlines last week has been known for over a decade, but it was initially thought to be a single asteroid. Later, it was discovered that it was actually two asteroids orbiting each other at a distance of 100 kilometers. As if that weren't enough, last week, significant sublimation of water ice was confirmed on both bodies due to increased heat from the sun, creating a tail in a process identical to that which creates comet tails. This means we are looking at the first known binary asteroid that is also classified as a comet, a rare phenomenon that doesn't fit into our current models of solar system formation, making it a priority for future study.